I have always said that God can use anyone or anything for his purposes. In 1975, I believe he brought Coach Jenkins to Callaway and used the game of football to demonstrate to a group of high school kids that racial reconciliation is not just something you ought to strive for, it's really something that can bring lifelong joy and friendships. Back in 1970, the US Department of Education and the Department of Justice declared segregated schools unconstitutional, and a massive busing plan was implemented across Mississippi. The effort did achieve a more racially integrated classroom at first, but the results did not create a more colorblind environment on either side in most places. Somehow, Callaway was different. There was an unusual mix of administrators, teachers, coaches, parents, and students, whose character and values fostered an environment of respect and cooperation. Nowhere was that fact more visible than among the members of the football team. At Callaway High School in 1975, a diverse group of aspiring athletes bonded on the gridiron to lead their team to the first championship of an integrated football team in Mississippi. No JPS team can boast such an accomplishment to this day. Over 40 years later, that band of brothers, black and white, continues deep friendships with each other. Skin color has never been an issue for them. When the team held a 40-year reunion in 2016, the members got together and rode an old JPS school bus together to the MS Sports Hall of Fame Museum and presented their 1975 state championship trophy to Bill Blackwell, the executive director. Coach Jenkins inspired that unity and continued community. He was instrumental in organizing the 50-year Hall of Fame and an invitation to the Mississippi State Hall of Fame to celebrate the 75 state championship team and the 50th anniversary team.
The 1975 Callaway Chargers were honored today at the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. They were the last integrated JPS team to win a state title. Hall of Famer Hill Denton was an assistant coach. Tyrone Keys played on the undefeated Charger squad 40 years ago. I asked the Super Bowl champ what it meant for this team to be remembered forever on Lakeland Drive.
Since I've been inducted since 2009, I always thought about that 75 Callaway team. Just thought about them and just thought about the 85 Bears and what a blessing it was for me to play on two outstanding legendary teams. 40 years later, for us to be going into the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame with our trophy, what a wonderful day. And the great thing about it is in 1971, when we started busing, it was considered one of our darkest moments because we didn't know what to expect. And we go over to Callaway and we all united as one front, one heartbeat. And for us to come back today to get off of that school bus, that's history.
Callaway High School was the first school in the state of Mississippi was identified as a school of choice. Black and whites had opportunity to choose to go to school together. Callaway was the first school in the state of Mississippi. Players talked about how we came together, black and whites. Tyrone mentioned the number of players. We had an assortment about 50-50 black and white players. There's no other team in the Jackson, Mississippi that's won a state championship, but however, here's another point. There's no other team in the Jackson metro area that's gone undefeated and won a state championship, and this was Callaway in 1975. There was a proclamation that the state legislators presented to Callaway after the 75 championship team.
Coach Odell Jenkins, who was the only African-American coach on the staff of the Callaway Charger 1975 state championship team, was the glue that held it all together.
Tyrone has been a blessing to me. And all you guys have, Bobby, Dunn, Clump, Darrell Smith, and all you guys that I have talked to, and Slaughter, you mean so much to me now. Tell you something else, we've been blessed to have been around a bunch of good guys. It hasn't been on, in fact, when I spoke to the team, first ball game this year, I told them they had a whole lot to uphold. It's not only just football. You're all not just football players. Look where you are now. Look what you're doing. We got doctors, lawyers, people who have done well, law enforcement. You have done well. You have represented Callaway well. And Skippy, Hill and I been friends over the years, Coach Lee, all us. In fact, when I tell other people from other schools, and they said, not only y'all still good, y'all work together, it's amazing, y'all friends. Some people don't understand that. We still are good friends. You all are winners, but we appreciate you coming. It's just a good job to see it all come together.
Look, I would like to say this about Coach Jenkins and the rest of our coaches. Before I knew what a mentor was, these guys was our mentors. These guys have been doing it for years, and we thank you for what you have made out of us.
When I came to Callaway, there was a principal there named Mr. Smith. There was an assistant principal named Lamar Nesbitt. There was an assistant principal named Mr. Manning. That was the foundation for what you see here today. Besides that point, you could not find a better coaching staff in the United States than Charlie Allman, Skippy Beerbro, Hill Denson, Odell Jenkins, and Bill Lee. I'm telling you, they were the epitome of coaches. So again, you fellas that went all the way to that championship, remember the foundation was set.
A concurrent resolution commending the Jackson Callaway High School football Chargers for their outstanding undefeated 1975 football season. Whereas the Jackson Callaway High School football team won the championship of the Capital Zone of the Big Elite 8 Conference. And whereas the Jackson Callaway High School football team won the state championship of the North Mississippi Division of the Big 8 Conference. And whereas the Jackson Callaway High School football team won the overall championship of the Big 8 Conference. And whereas the Jackson Callaway High School squad is rated the #1 team in Mississippi by Associated Press and United Press International. And whereas this fine group of young athletes completed their season with an astounding record of 12 wins against no losses. The only team ever in the history of the Mississippi High School Activities Association to have this record. And whereas the Jackson Callaway High School football team scored a total of 328 points on offense while allowing only 121 points to be scored against them on defense. And whereas 9 members of the Jackson Callaway squad were all Big 8 conference selections, and whereas 11 members of the Jackson Callaway team were selected to the All-City team. And whereas the Jackson Callaway High School squad were ably coached and inspired by head coach Charles Allman, assistant coaches Hill Denson, W.J. Bilbrough, and Odell Jenkins, has developed a winning and cooperative spirit and a high degree of sportsmanship. And whereas their activities and attitude reflect great credit upon the individual players and their coaches and bring honor to their school, and whereas it is the policy of this legislature to recognize and command excellence, especially when evidenced by the youth of our state who are its future. Therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the state of Mississippi, the Senate concurring therein, that we hereby commend and congratulate the Jackson Callaway High School football team and their coaches, Charles Allman, Hill Denson, W.J. Bilbrough, and Odell Jenkins, for winning the Big 8 Conference and for displaying tireless devotion to their athletic endeavors.
This gold football that has my name on it, and it is to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Super Bowls. And I just never forget, as a kid, watching all the Super Bowl games and watching Monday Night Football, and my mom said, "It's time to go to bed." But I said, "No, Mom, I want to play pro football one day." And I never would have ever thought that when my dad took me outside to kind of throw the ball around, that this ball would have taken me places. But I want to tell young students, the ball without education and without the proper mentoring is a disaster. So I encourage the young people that they have to develop character, because football by itself is a non-transferable skill. But you can take everything that you learn from the coaches and the teachers, you can take with you and you can apply it, and you can parlay the game from the playing field to the game of life, and then come back and help the next generation on their journey.
Coach was a perfect example as a coach. He was tough, yet fair. He was passionate about the game, but yet compassionate about all people. He was a servant leader. As Bobby Bell, captain of the '74 Chargers defense, and one who made law enforcement his career, said, "Coach Jenkins was my mentor before I ever knew what a mentor was." Coach Odell Jenkins and the Callaway Chargers story deserves to be remembered, and it shines a positive and bright light on what can happen when people unite around a shared goal and commit themselves to excellence. It is a reminder of the truth of Philippians 2:4. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. On behalf of all of your players, thank you, Coach, for giving us your all.